thinking a lot about the way the left has vilified and demonized law enforcement. We've seen this for years. It's not really anything new. A lot of people on the left just despise cops. Always have, always will. To them, law enforcement represents law, order, civility, following the rules, and the left rebels against that. And the left continually tears down that is good, that which is good. And it comes from a lot of corners of the left. Institutionally, a lot of it has to do with the Democrat Party. Look at J.B. Pritzker. This guy has really decided to flex his muscles and to really get as animated as humanly possible. This guy is putting himself out there in a major way. I don't know a lot about him. I know he's the heir to the big hotel fortune. Critics claim that he's the black sheep of the Pritzker family. But he's a real character. And when I go to Chicago in a couple of weeks for the big Freedom Festival there, and I hope you'll join us there as well. That's going to be a great event. Saturday, November the 9th, the Chicago Freedom Summit over there in Itasca. You can go to 560theanswer.com to get tickets. I'll be joined by Dan Proft, of course, the great, terrific team there, WIND, John Anthony, Sean Thompson and I are, I think, going to do a panel together. Tom Sadeka, my buddy's going to be there. Dr. Ben Carson, Scott Jennings. Go to 560theanswer.com for tickets. But when I'm there, I want to really dive into this J.B. Pritzker character. I saw him yesterday with Bret Baier on Fox News, and he is stepping up and leaning into the hateful, horrific rhetoric against ICE officers, which is, of course, the ultimate slap against law enforcement. If you're a cop in Naperville, Illinois, you should resent what your governor is doing with your fellow law enforcement officers of ICE. It's as if people like Pritzker think that ICE officers somehow are in a different category from law enforcement. They're not. They're cops. They're law enforcement. They're enforcing federal immigration law. That's all they're doing. That's all they're being asked to do. This country voted for a president to implement the largest mass deportation effort since Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, who wanted Americans and immigrants to acclimate. So here's J.B. Pritzker yesterday with Bret Baier on Fox News.
It happens that I know best because I helped build a Holocaust museum sitting next to Holocaust survivors about what the Nazis did in those early years.
No, I understand that.
I'm not talking about the Holocaust. I'm talking about what they were doing, taking away people's rights, arresting people, asking them for papers. Early on in an authoritarian regime, wherever it is in the world throughout history, this is what happens. It's the beginning of something very bad for a country, especially a constitutional republic.
To his point, in this environment, you're demonizing ICE agents. If some ICE agent gets killed, and we just saw an assassination attempt down in Dallas, isn't that not something that we should be really talking about like that?
The thing that we're demonizing is when ICE agents aren't following protocols. They aren't acting like law enforcement should act. They're instead literally racially profiling. We've seen it. All you have to do is go online and look at some of the videos. Just to be clear, because I think many people that are listening maybe haven't seen that before.
You don't think you're painting with a broad brush of all the ICE agents that are doing their job?
No, we're saying that if you're an ICE agent and you do these things, we think you ought to be held accountable. And yet no one in Washington, no one above them, no supervisor, no inspector general is holding anybody accountable. There literally haven't been any suspensions or firings for the terrible things that they've done, literally grabbing people, tackling them when they're U.S. citizens and have done zero wrong.
You've referred.
You know, those are some of the old tropes that cop-hating leftists have always used. Racial profiling. Obviously, most immigrants don't look like they're from Nashville, Tennessee. So where's the accountability for the Pritzkers of the world? Where's the accountability for folks like him? He calls on law enforcement to be held accountable. What about his rhetoric? What about his dangerous, vile putrid rhetoric comparing law enforcement to Nazi stormtroopers. Pam Bondi was on Fox News yesterday with a little bit of a warning for people like Pritzker. Here's what she had to say.
Lori Lightfoot, JB Back Ribs Pritzker, they're doxing, they're telling people the whereabouts of ICE agents. Is that legal?
No. And Jesse, first time I've seen the Lori Lightfoot video is just now on your show. She will be getting a letter from us tomorrow to preserve anything that she's done as well to make sure that she's not violating the law. It appears she is. You cannot disclose the identity of a federal agent, where they live, anything that could harm them. Pritzker, same ball game with him. And, you know, Pelosi got a letter today from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. So did Brooke Jenkins, that DA in San Francisco. We told them, preserve your emails, preserve everything you have on this topic, because if you are telling people to arrest our ICE officers, our federal agents, you cannot do that. You're impeding an investigation, and we will charge them if they think they have not met me, because we will charge them if they are violating the law. We will protect our federal agents. They're out there working nonstop, as you're showing right now during a shutdown. These people are out there working to keep Californians safe, yet you've got Pelosi out there saying to obstruct their investigation. You can't do it, and we're going to investigate her now, as well as that DA. And Pritzker's on the list too, Jesse.
I have confidence that she means what she says. I saw some fellow conservative talk show hosts give some fellow hosts sort of chastise Pam Bondi for saying, well, we're going to give them sternly worded letters. No, we're not. No, they're not. They're gonna find out. They're going to futz around. They're going to find out. We got a lot to cover today. Welcome in. It is a Friday. Happy Friday. 800-655-MIKE, 800-655-6453. I want to stay with us a little bit as we continue here this Friday episode of the Mike Gallagher Show. Good to have you here. And I'm just fascinated by how so-called mainstream continually assault law enforcement with not only the physical violence that we're witnessing with all these anti-ICE protests, but people like Pritzker, people like Lori Lightfoot, people who are disgusted with these ICE officers who are just doing their job. These are law enforcement. And I guess when I see a Democrat who I know votes against my wishes most of the time sound normal, I'm grateful. I'm thankful. It's like manna from heaven. This John Fetterman guy, this senator from Pennsylvania, just continues to astound. Let me give you Fetterman yesterday, also on Fox News, pointing out how insane it is to enforce federal immigration law. This is what it boils down to. Like we pointed out yesterday with Byron York, who was talking about what's been happening with the ICE agents. Look, all they're doing is enforcing immigration law. Period. End of sentence. Check out what Fetterman said yesterday on Fox.
This is what I'm saying. I will never understand why it's controversial to round up and deport all of the criminals here that are in our nation right now. And I'm proud to just agree that we need to secure our border. I don't know why these other kinds of things. And if they want to, run me out of the party for these kind of views, I mean, that's really it's up to them.
I mean, there's the end of the segment, music is playing on Sean Hannity's show, and Fetterman just wants to sound off and say, why is it controversial to enforce the law? Why? Do you know that with the big Canal Street brouhaha in New York City the other day, they did get 9 violent, dangerous, criminal illegals, sex traffickers, drug traffickers, people who are assaulting other people. And let's be real here. They want to put these ICE officers' lives in danger. And I am terrified that we're going to wake up one day and hear the news that some ICE law enforcement officer has been killed. Here was Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, addressing that very point yesterday.
This is actively putting the lives of our ICE agents at risk. We've seen media outlets, in fact, in this room, also write stories about ICE tracker apps that Democrats and other left-wing activists have created to track the location of ICE agents on the ground in our communities. Again, I've said this repeatedly, and I will continue to say it. The men and women of ICE are outstanding people. I wish a Democrat on Capitol Hill would actually have the courage or the guts to stand up to their party and sit down with some of these men and women who are doing this incredibly difficult job of enforcing our federal immigration laws.
And finally, let me give you our colleague, Salem's own Scott Jennings, who is like a Christian facing the lions every night on CNN. Here's what he had to say last night on CNN about the doxing of these ICE officers.
Masks should be banned in law enforcement. What kind of world can we have where cops come into your door and they're masked?
Scott.
Counterpoint, the reason they're wearing masks, which, by the way, their director, Todd Lyons, he doesn't want them to have to wear masks. He's against the masks. The reason they're wearing them is because you have a dedicated group of people out there, and some of them, unfortunately, are Democrat political officials who are doxing them and their families and putting them in harm's way. They face 1,000% increase in violent attacks this year. These people are in harm's way every day, and they are protecting themselves and their families.
That's it. Period. I mean, they shouldn't have to wear masks. As usual, Scott makes a brilliant point. Even the ICE agency director doesn't want. You know what I think the problem is, incidentally? Calling them ICE agents. That's why I always say officers. And I don't know if that's even the technically correct term, but it's literally correct. They are law enforcement. And I think people hear agents and they think there's some kind of a sub-category of law enforcement. I don't know.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.